Hi, I'm Parkson, Head of Programs at the Center for Fathering. With me today is Dr. June Loh, who is an assistant professor at the Center for Sleep and Cognition at the Yong Lin School of Medicine, National University of Singapore. And she will be telling us why we sleep, why we need to sleep, and what happens if we don't. Welcome, Dr. Lu, and thank you very much for taking your time to speaking with us and sharing with us about an area of your expertise, actually, and that is the area of sleep. So am I right to say that because you're an expert in sleep, you sleep a lot?
Unfortunately, no. I believe I sleep less than what is recommended for my age group, just like a lot of you.
Yeah, I think there was a report recently, maybe about a year or two ago, that Singapore is the second most sleep deprived nation in the world. All right, we're going to talk about probably some reasons for it. But I also found this very interesting fact, and that is a person spends about one third of his or her life sleeping, or at least attempting to do so. Now, that works out to be about an average of 26 years. Now, I'm sure that sleep is not a social construct, that, everybody is sleeping, so, okay, let's just follow the crowd. But it's completely natural. So is it true that humans need so much sleep, and how much is enough?
Well, humans do need quite a bit of sleep. There's no doubt about it. That's how we have evolved to become, in a way. And the amount of sleep we need actually depends very much on our age. So all of us, know that kids need a lot more sleep than adults do, and young adults actually need more sleep than older adults. So if we are talking about kids like children aged between 6 to 13 years, they are actually recommended to sleep between 9 to 11 hours. While teenagers aged between 14 and 17 years are recommended to sleep 8 to 10 hours. So the so-called magic number about how much sleep we need actually very much depends on how old we are. And some individuals actually have certain genes that make them need less sleep. Okay, so even if you know that, as adults, you need 8 hours of sleep, actually you may need less if you have those certain genes. And how much sleep you need very much depends on how sleepy you are in a day after getting that amount of sleep. So you are the one who knows the best about how much sleep you need in order to be able to sustain your attention and alertness throughout the waking hours.
Yeah, I think that's important to know. It varies from the life stages you're in, and I think sleep is also very natural because it follows, or it's really following a biological clock within us. I think it's called the circadian rhythm, which also in a way follows the sunsets and sunrise, right? So, but unfortunately, in our modern world, we are dictated by technology. For example, the alarm clock, right? We go to
We
bed.
set our alarm clock depending on, say, when we need to get up to go to work and when we need to get up to go to school. Okay, so our schedule, particularly on weekdays, are actually dictated by our work schedule and study schedule. Yes.
Yeah, I think, isn't that a little bit, should I say, unfortunate, or, because you might have set the alarm clock at a certain time because you need to go to school, you need to go to work, but your circadian rhythm, based on your circadian rhythm, it's not yet time for you to wake up. So I guess, that's where you are aroused from sleep and, you're not ready to wake up, and therefore you're still in that twilight zone. Okay. And therefore you end up having insufficient sleep. Am I close to the truth?
Yes, absolutely. Very, very close to the truth. This is particularly true, say, for adolescents and sometimes even for younger children, because in Singapore, a lot of schools actually, start at a particular time, and that particular time is very early. But then we know that particularly like for teenagers, they are biologically programmed to go to bed later because they have, in a way, a later biological clock. But then when school starts so early, It means that they have only a very limited time at night to sleep, and they probably are just waking up at as if it's like 4 a.m. for adults to go to work. So it's actually a very, very unfortunate scenario, I say.
I think for adolescents, I read somewhere that their circadian rhythm actually shifts quite a lot. An example of that would be, when it's 1 a.m. in the morning, 2 a.m. in the morning, and many of them are still not sleepy. So is it true that in that sense their, sleep cycle has shifted?
Yeah, so a lot of research has actually shown that as we grow up, like from children to adolescents, there is a delay in circadian rhythm, a delay in our biological clock, meaning that we prefer to go to bed later as we grow up. Our biological clock probably is the latest around late adolescence and early adulthood. Okay, so that's the time when we will prefer to go to bed the latest. Yeah, so unfortunately, that's the time when a lot of the teenagers need to get up early. Yeah, so that group is really the group that is pretty prone to sleep curtailment, particularly on weekdays.
So I think there are some conversations at parliament level to talk, and the conversations about delaying the start of school by, let's say, half an hour. But I think for teenagers that might not be enough. You might have to start school, let's say, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. But anyway, we have made it so far. So I think, if there are changes, that'll be wonderful. But if not, then we need to find other ways, right? So what other ways for adolescents can they use to mitigate this lack of sleep, because of in that sense, the conflict of schedules?
Yeah, so first of all, I think we need to understand what kind of deficits or what kind of issues these teenagers may face if they don't have sufficient sleep. And from a lot of our studies, we know that as teenagers go through more and more nights of short sleep, typically that happens on school nights. We know that their alertness, attention, processing speed, and memory just keep, going worse and worse. Okay, and even if they try to catch up with their sleep and sleep more over the weekend, some of these deficits do not fully recover. And then the school term lasts for multiple weeks. So the following week, when they need to go to school again, they will just deprive themselves of sleep again and sleep very little. And we know that these deficits continue to deteriorate, probably at a faster rate than the week before. So in terms of ways to try to mitigate this kind of deficits, other than hoping that there is a delay in school start time, another thing that probably the teenagers can do themselves is to try to take a nap in the afternoon. But when they take a nap, make sure they need to make sure they don't nap for too long. Otherwise, what we call sleep pressure, or the tendency for them to feel sleepy, okay, will be dissipated. Okay, so at night they will not be able to fall asleep that easily. We know that they have a later biological preference already. If they nap for a long time in the afternoon and at night they cannot fall asleep, then this will just make things worse. Okay, so take a short power nap, I say, and also we need to pay attention to the time when napping takes place. If they nap, say, late afternoon onwards, then at night it's very difficult to get them to fall asleep. So it's best to take a short nap, probably in the first half of the afternoon, so that they will feel a little bit more awake and alert for the remaining waking hours before they go to bed.
Oh, so preferably, would you say before 3 p.m. to have a nap?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, but they're still in school, so I don't know how possible that would be. How long is a power nap? How many minutes or hours?
It is not an easy question to answer. So I say 10 to 20 minutes probably is the best. Otherwise, as I mentioned, the feeling of sleepiness will be gone if you nap for too long. Okay, so, but then the problem is it also depends on how much sleep you have been getting at night. Okay, if you really have been sleeping only 1-2 hours, obviously a 10-20 minute nap, yes, it will make you feel more alert, but the benefits of the nap may not last for very long. So it's not an easy question to answer. So nap when you can, but cannot nap for too long.
Okay. Otherwise, it becomes like the part two of your nocturnal sleep.
Exactly.
Yeah. And so it affects your sleep that night. And then, if you can't fall asleep, then you will again have fewer hours of sleep and it kind of just snowballs, right?
Exactly.
Okay. Thank you for that. And I think one of your studies found that when, adolescents who did not have that full, let's say 8 hours of sleep that night, and they take a short nap the next day, and sometime during the day, what your studies found is that it actually improves, or at least their memory and cognition were not negatively affected. Can you talk a bit more about what your study?
Okay, so we try to quantify the benefits associated with having a 60 to 90 minute nap among adolescents who have been getting very, very little sleep at night, like maybe 5 hours or 6.5 hours. So what we have found is that these relatively long nap episodes, if taken early in the afternoon, I think, as far as I remember, it should be starting at about 2 p.m. Okay, so even when at 2 p.m. Adolescents take 60 to 90 minute nap, it might have very little impact on the nighttime sleep, okay, which might be at midnight, okay. But then with these long nap episodes, the deficits of, say, attention associated with all these nocturnal short sleep duration could actually be attenuated. Okay? So it's not, I won't say it's bad to nap for half an hour, 1 hour, or maybe even 1.5 hours for teenagers who actually sleep very, very little at night. But for those who are getting close to the recommended sleep duration, if they can sleep the entire recommended sleep duration at night, they are recommended to do so.
So I think that afternoon nap is also called a siesta in some countries, and it's like a daily occurrence. It's part of the daily living. And I think in Singapore we need that. We need some of that. Because we are the second most sleep deprived nation of the world, I think that will really be effective in, kind of counterbalancing the negative impact of the lack of sleep or sleep deprivation. So if an adolescent does not have the full 8 hours of sleep, maybe 5 to 6.5, then taking about 1 hour nap in the afternoon would be able to make them kind of rejuvenated, their minds, their brains alert again, able to absorb, able to learn, able to think. Wonderful. All right. So at least we know that, something can be done about it. But of course, in the long run, getting the enough sleep every night is still the best option. Talking about adults now, adults, I think they face the same thing. There's kind of pressure. They stay up late. And for parents, they have to take care of the kids, put them to bed before they can maybe continue their work that they brought home. And then, for some is they're scrolling the social media, watching YouTube videos, or even playing online games. And then they don't go to bed till maybe midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning. And I know for a fact many adults have this thinking that, oh, don't worry, I'll make it up over the weekend. Is that true? Can you catch up your sleep?
Well, yes and no. So if on the weekends, obviously, if you stick to your short sleep schedule, just like what you do over the weekdays, obviously it means that you are exposing yourself to more and more nights of short sleep, which is actually not a good thing to do. But of course, if we try to get more sleep over the weekend, now we are exposing ourselves to another issue of what we call social jet lag, because on weekends, a lot of us actually go to bed later and wake up even later compared to weekdays. It's like we travel westward across a few time zones every weekend. But then on Sunday, Sunday night, we need to try to go to bed earlier because the next day we need to go to school, we need to go to work, right? So now we travel back to Singapore. So every weekend, we just keep traveling, or our biological clock keeps traveling. And this issue is called social jet lag, and it's not advisable because it has been linked with obesity, type 2 diabetes, and pre-diabetes, particularly in young and middle-aged adults. So it's still best to try to get as much sleep as possible, sleep the recommended duration on both weekdays and weekends, and try to keep your bedtime and wake time the same on both weekdays and weekends. This is what we normally advise everyone to do.
Thank you for sharing that, because I think it's so important for people to hear that and know, all right, social jet lag. And I think that's one of the reasons or what we're actually feeling on Monday morning. They call it the Monday blues. But it's not because you do not look forward to going back to work, but it's how you're feeling inside, right? Your body and your brain, it's still adjusting because you have, in that sense, messed up your circadian rhythm, your sleep cycles and all that. And, over the weekend, and now the body is trying to play catch up. So I think one of the ways to overcome this is simply to go to bed and wake up at the same time every day, whether it's a weekend or a weekday.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's what I do. I set the alarm clock at the same time every day. But I did a little experiment, and that's, on Sundays, for example. So I would just switch off the alarm clock. Okay, so that, and I wanted to see what time would I naturally wake up without the alarm clock. And very interestingly, I would wake up about the same time, a little bit later, like 30 minutes later from, the usual time I wake up by the alarm clock. So I begin to realize, okay, if I am able to wake up without the alarm clock, actually, I feel that I have slept adequately and maybe better. So I think that was an interesting. So I would say to people, correct me if I'm wrong, that if you really want to know how much sleep you need, try not to wake up with the alarm clock.
Exactly, but you need to do this for a relatively long period of time. Okay,
and then find the average.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I do the same thing during the weekends. I switch off my alarm clock, but I still wake up at more or less the same time as on weekdays. Yes, this is how our biological clock works. It's really clock. Okay, yeah. So it ticks the same way no matter what you do.
Wow, interesting. All right, let's talk about the effects of inadequate sleep. All right, if sleep is so important, what will happen to us if we do not have enough of it?
Well, sleep is very important for our health, for sure, and it serves many different functions associated with our health. Okay, so for example, sleep helps optimize our immune responses. So we will have a higher chance of becoming ill if we are exposed to, say, the common cold virus and we have not been getting enough sleep. Okay, sleep also serves some sort of like a detox function in a way, because when we are sleeping, toxic substances that are associated with Alzheimer's disease are removed from our brain. Okay, so there are some studies showing that short sleeping individuals face a higher risk for developing Alzheimer's disease. And sleep also plays a very important role in optimizing our daytime alertness and cognitive functions. I'm sure all of us know that when there's a night when we don't get enough sleep, the following day our thinking is slower. It's more difficult for us to stay awake, stay alert. Yeah, we become moody, we become irritable, and even our face will look different. And some people may just not want to approach us as much when we don't get enough sleep. We have this sleep-deprived face on our face.
Yeah. There's something called what do you call that? Hangry, right? When you're angry because you're hungry. So I don't think anyone has come up with a term for this. You're angry because you're sleepy. I think they just call it grumpy, right? Grumpy and
Yeah,
grouchy.
exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is also a social impact, from the lack of sleep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm very curious about you mentioned Alzheimer's disease. Can you elaborate a bit more about that?
Okay, so some researchers actually say that a protein called beta amyloid is associated with Alzheimer's disease, but we know that actually it's not the full story. But so scientific studies have shown that during a particular stage of sleep, particularly slow wave sleep, that's when these toxic substances, these beta amyloid proteins, are cleared from our brain. So if we do not get sufficient sleep, this process may be affected. So this beta amyloid may accumulate in our brain, increasing our chance of developing Alzheimer's disease.
Oh, so this beta amyloid is a toxic substance, and I'm just presuming that it's a byproduct of because our brain uses energy, right? So yeah, there's metabolism taking place, and when energy is produced, there's also a byproduct, and these are waste materials. So beta amyloid is one of those waste materials.
Yeah, beta amyloid is just a substance that's produced in our body. Typically, we can get rid of it from our brain if we get sufficient sleep, because sleep, particularly slow wave sleep, actually helps with that process. But if we don't get sufficient sleep, then it will just keep accumulating, and this clearance process is affected. That's why we really need to get enough sleep. And if we don't start developing a good sleep habit when we are young, then later we do not just face a higher risk of developing Alzheimer's disease, we actually face increased risk of many other illnesses, some kinds of cancer, cardiovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes, hypertension, pretty much anything that comes into your mind.
Wow. Okay, so guys, this is how important sleep is. So please, if your boss is not letting you sleep enough, let them watch this video. Okay, I think productivity also hinges on the employees having enough sleep so that they can go to the office in the morning fresh, alert, able to focus, and giving off their best because they're in a good mood. And remember the social aspect, right? They'll be more friendly, they'll be more approachable. If they are in customer service, your customers will love you because your employees are so nice, and so gracious and all that. So many benefits if you just let your employees sleep enough. Okay.
I guess that's a good thing about COVID, when a lot of us just work from home and we can save time from commuting. Okay, so we can sleep in even on weekdays. So I think that's one of the good things about COVID. Now we have been in this pandemic or epidemic for a few years already. Yeah, people are getting used to perhaps sleeping in on weekdays. So if the employers can allow work from home, every now and then, probably, I think, they should, so that the employees can sleep more and they can enjoy all the benefits of sleeping more.
Regarding school-going children, all right, they have a lot of things to learn, a lot of things to remember. So having enough sleep also affects your memory, your ability to remember and to recall. What would your advice be about, burning the midnight oil? I hope you are familiar with that term.
Totally not advisable. So what we have learned from school children in Singapore is that on weekdays, longer sleep duration is associated with better academic performance. But longer studying hours is not associated with better performance. Okay, so burning the midnight oil is definitely not advisable, and parents should actually bear that in mind. Okay, sleep does play a very critical role in helping your children to consolidate what they have learned previously And also it sort of prepares them to learn new stuff the following day. If your children stay up late to study, do not get enough sleep, the next day in class, your children probably fall asleep. Okay, then the learning will not be very efficient. Okay, even if you give them a lot of tutorial classes later, it's still not the same. Okay, when I was young, I stay up late to study. Then during the daytime in class, I just kept falling asleep. Yeah, so looking back, definitely that's not a very good practice.
That's right. That's right. I thank you for saying that. I think the way I would put it is, it's like having a secretary who is doing your filing for you, right? So during the day, you are, receiving a lot of data, a lot of information, trying to remember a lot of things. You have a lot of bits of data. And it's during your sleep that your secretary goes to work, filing it, indexing it, and putting it into the right folders and into the right cabinets, so that when you want to recall something, so you say to your secretary, get me that document, that file. Now, if your secretary had time to do the filing properly, your secretary will be very quickly be able to retrieve that file for you. But if your secretary did not have the time to do it, then your secretary will be asking himself or herself, now let me see, could it be in this drawer or could it be in that drawer? So it'll take a longer time for that piece of information to be retrieved. Does that sound right?
Something similar to that. But
Okay.
if you don't get enough sleep, your secretary may actually just have lost your file. So you cannot retrieve it later.
Okay, wow, that's even worse,
Exactly.
Yeah, it just got blown away somewhere, and misplaced into totally someone else's cabinet, maybe. Okay.
Yeah, probably.
Well, thank you, Dr. Loh, for sharing all this information with us, sharing what you've learned through your research. I'll be putting the link in the video description so that people can read up your research papers if they have interest to. And thank you for taking the time. And I hope you also rest well every night.
Thank you so much.